most satisfying project?
So I don't really know. I think just when I first took German, I really enjoyed it. I was really good at it, and it wasn't because I was good at it that I enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed trying and speaking a different language. I still think now, I think it's just really, really cool. Like, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, just language in general.
Having linguistics as a background gives you a real deep appreciation for what a language really is. And so when you're studying, say, English versus Russian or something like this, or English versus Spanish, and you feel like maybe you're just learning a bunch of different grammatical forms and you're learning just about a whole bunch of different rules and idiosyncrasies, linguistics gives you a framework to say, why is it those particular rules? Why is it that there are these differences or these similarities between languages?
It's impossible to pigeonhole linguistics as a subject that, in terms of that traditional binary divide between the arts and sciences, we don't fit into that two-way mold.
It enables you to be a complete unapologetic geek for language. So in other words, you're somebody who's really interested in how language works, what words do, what happens in translation.
One week you're writing an essay on history or geography or like the use of language in some random part of the world. And next week you're doing a problem sheet on how the brain works, and you're drawing diagrams of the inside of your mouth and learning how to produce these sounds that I've never heard of before.
In terms of the structure of the course and the flexibility that you have, the first year is pretty prescribed as to what you do. And our reasoning for that is that we want to give you exposure to lots of new things that you won't have encountered before.
They combine immediately, and you have to apply your linguistic knowledge that you learned in the first year to your second language.
The Oxford course is very literature focused in any language that you do, and I think that's quite a big undertaking, and you have to know that you like the literature, but it's a really kind of interesting way of finding out more about the course and the language, rather than just learning the verbs and understanding all of that side of it.
You have quite a few lectures. I mean, linguistics will have 4 to 5 lectures a week, depending again on what modules you're taking, and then German will have probably again 4 to 5 on top of that.
Linguistics and a language just kind of gives you so many options of what you want to do and what you can be interested in.
One of the options, in fact, is called Linguistic Project, and that enables students to carry out an original research project, which could be a library-based research project, a bookish type of research project, and that would be appropriate if it's perhaps a historical topic, or it might be actually doing field work, going out and collecting your own linguistic data.
Next year I will be spending I think 9 months in Berlin as a teaching assistant. So I'll be helping out an English teacher in Berlin.
We've got proper laboratories where students can, even beginning first year students come in and do work here.
The Language Centre is an invaluable tool for just all linguists. They have their own library again there. They have like TV rooms, and you can listen to, you can listen to like German radio. You can watch German TV. There's books, all sorts of books in German. There's magazines, and it's kind of like it's a building dedicated to languages. So the people you're going to meet there are fellow linguists. So it's quite nice to have that community. There is a lot of places you can go and study in Oxford. Like there's the Taylorian Library, which is like the language library, but there's also like the Bodleian, and then you kind of have access to you can have access to any sort of library that you want. So if your faculty library isn't the kind of library or atmosphere you want, you can simply go elsewhere.
The most important and unique thing that we offer are the people.
The most satisfying part about working with students here is that it's in such small groups. So I come from a culture where we're used to dealing with about 200 to 300 students at a time at the upper end, and even at the lowest end, more like 20 to 30 students. And so being able to sit with 1, 2, 3 students at the most and really get insights into how they're thinking about a problem, and then how to kind of direct them based on kind of their very personalized experiences, has been really, really exciting.
Well, of course, before my first tutorial, I was still absolutely terrified. I mean, you're with sometimes world famous like tutors who like people are like absolutely desperate to meet, and you've got to sit in there sometimes on your own reading out your work to them and they have free rein to say whatever they want about it.
Your input is valued, and if you can kind of, you know, when you're discussing especially literature, if you come up with an interpretation that your tutor hasn't thought of, they'll tell you that.
I think when students are applying for modern languages, they can sometimes feel quite anxious that they already need to have a lot of experience of travelling into the countries where that language is spoken, to doing work experience, to have read a lot of literature, and they really don't.
I hadn't had any practice interviews. I hadn't really been taught how to do an interview. I think it was one of the first interviews I've ever done, both academic. I've never had like a job interview. Like I was just like, oh, yay, first time for everything.
We want to see active and engaged minds during our interviews, not necessarily minds that have thought about a lot of things that are particular to this. I certainly hadn't when I started this, and so you know, you're here to learn. We're not expecting you to know things, we're expecting you to be interested in things.
But an interesting and sensible answer, which is wrong, can be more interesting and more valuable to us than a one-word answer which is actually technically correct but which doesn't show us anything about how they got there.
We'll want to know about how you've developed your interests in the language. So have you been watching any films? Have you been reading any books? And what have you got out of it? That's always the crucial thing is, so what did you think of that?
The decision to choose linguistics came up during the interview. I actually applied to do German and French. But through the interview process, I sort of realised that wasn't really what I wanted to do, and it wasn't actually what I was good at doing. And I spoke with the tutor, and the tutor recommended that I try the linguistics interview test and the aptitude test that you have to go through. And I really, really enjoyed it, and it was actually quite an enjoyable interview.
There is likely to be a section that's in the target language, but we'll be very careful in that section as to what we ask you, because we obviously don't want you to end up in difficulties vocabulary-wise. And at that point, we're not looking for fluency.
Since linguistics is not a subject which is taught in schools, if it's something you think you might want to do at university, go and read a book or two about it, not just a Wikipedia page.
You are going to spend the next 4 years studying this course. You can't kind of get by on a, well, it might look good, because you're just going to end up hating the degree.
What we're looking for is that people have made the most of the opportunities that they've had, whatever that opportunity is. In terms of what students go on to do after a modern languages degree, in some respects it's quite difficult to pin it down because they go on to do everything. They come out of their degree particularly as very well-skilled communicators. So any career that involves that is going to suit them very well. So they might go into careers in advertising, marketing, trademarking, for instance. A lot of students are also, because of their experience of different cultures, very outward looking and often very interested in third sector careers.
Some people do stay in academia and they kind of go on to explore the different bits that they got to touch upon in their undergraduate degree and then want to continue it. I'm actually quite interested in editing and publishing, and which is something that I just kind of found out that I quite liked.
Always changing and trying new things. I think that's what I'd really like to do, and constantly using the language, not just because you can, but because it's useful to get through, and it's useful, you need to use it rather than it's just something you can show off about.
So if you're watching this video and you're wondering, is linguistics right for me? I think you need to ask yourself some big questions. What are your interests really in? Are you really interested in something deep about human nature, and what are the best ways to think about that? If you end up answering yes to that kind of questions, linguistics might be right for you.